Hey everybody, JK here from Animator Island. Welcome to today's live stream. Hope you're doing well today. I'm doing much better than I was last time I talked to you. Still slightly hobbled from the issue that I'm having, but the good news is I have clothes on today and I'm walking around, so that's a plus. Step in the right direction, right? Anyway, I thought I would do a live stream today because we're going to do some gesture drawing. So if you're interested in joining in, feel free to grab a sketchbook or open your favorite art program and we'll get to it in a minute. I will give people a chance to file in and get their gear together, and then we'll jump right in. It's been a while since I talked about, I put a little tag up, let's draw some gestures. It's been a while since I talked about the format and the process and the tools that I use. So let me go over that real quick so that if anybody's new, they have an idea of what I'm using here. I have a refurbished iPad Pro. I think it's not second generation, but it's the one that had the first generation of Apple Pencil. It's much cheaper to get them refurbished, so that's what I use, and it's a 12.5 inch, I believe. And I'll be working in Procreate today. I've got a bunch of images pulled from Pinterest and some other places that I'm just going to be doing gestures from for practice, and then also to build sort of a library of potential poses to pull from whenever necessary in the future. So I think that's about everything. Um, if anybody has any questions about anything, feel free to post them in the chat. I'll try and keep an eye on that as we go along, and we'll get started. So let's share some screens here. There we go. Cool. Okay. Another thing that I haven't said in a while that I probably should repeat is if you are just getting started with gesture drawing, the very best resource you can possibly draw from is real life. That is number one. If you can manage to get somebody a model, or just maybe even somebody you know, or you could do it live like on the street, but that's really hard because the poses are changing so fast. But that's your best bet because you're going to gain the most from a session like that. Barring that, because we can't all have live models in front of us all the time, I definitely recommend working from photo reference. Photo reference would be number two on the list. So you got live first and then photo reference. Third on the list would be existing artwork. Now, as you can see, this collection of images that we're going to be working from today has two existing artwork pieces on it. The problem with working from art is that the artist who did the piece already did all of the really hard mental work for you. So it's not a terrible thing to learn from them, right? But you're not going to get nearly as much out of it as you would from photo reference, and you're not going to get nearly as much out of that as you would from live, because in a live session, you have to translate all the forms into 2D shapes and things to put on the paper, and you have to work a lot harder. So I'm going to be working from some illustrations here as well as some photo reference, but especially if you're new to gesture drawing, I don't recommend that you work from illustrations as much because, again, the hard work is done for you, and you're not going to gain as much by not working as hard. But in this case, I am doing some from that because there are some poses that I really like, and I couldn't find live photo reference of people doing these things because most of them are already pushed and things. Okay, I'll be working with a brush called Tinderbox, which is one of my favorites. And I like to work in like a dark purple color or some dark color that's not black. I definitely recommend not working in black. And we'll just jump right in and get started. So let's pass these down a little. And like I said, if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to chime in the chat or wants to just say hello or whatever the case might be. I will just be working here quietly because I'm going to try and get this practice in so that because I haven't, trying to get back into the swing of things after being out of commission for a while with health issues, which I talked about in the last live stream. So anytime you don't draw for a while, it's tricky to kind of jump right back in. And Maria asks, why do you recommend not working not in black? Very interested in that. Okay, so as I'm kind of drawing here, and as you can see, it's very dark, so it's not like it's not black, but I find that this comes from my background in traditional 2D animation. So back in the old days, when there were no such things as computers or phones or electricity. No, it wasn't quite that bad. But back in the old days, we used to work on paper with pencils, and we would work with colored pencils. It was a non-photo blue pencil that we would generally do all of our drawing in when we were working in animation, because you could go back over that and do your tie downs and your inking and things like that without it showing up if you were going to photocopy it and stuff. So it carries over from that. However, it's not just a, oh, you should do this because do it. The reason that I say you shouldn't work in pure black is the same reason that if you watched, I think it was the color tutorial we did, that you don't generally use pure white. It's because you can't go anywhere from there, right? So if you work in blacks, um, initially especially, then you don't have something deeper to go to after that. Whereas if you work even in this like very dark purple, if I go to black afterwards, I'm going to be able to tell the difference between that and my initial dark purple lines, because the black shows up in such a harsher fashion. And so it's kind of this sense of um, I'm putting down lines that I know aren't finished, that I know aren't final, and that makes it a little bit less tense for me personally. And also, there's somewhere to go from there, if that makes sense. So, you can certainly work in black if you would prefer. If I'm drawing on newsprint, I very much prefer to work in black, because on newsprint with a nice like that's not even a black. With a nice Prismacolor pencil on newsprint, man, I could draw like that all day. Heidi's here. It says shelter in. Hopefully that means that you're sheltering in the chat and not that there's a tornado near you. But I don't know. Um, Maria says, I've only ever worked in black and never thought of that. There's nothing wrong with working in black. It's not like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. But, give it a thought, try out some colors, things like that. The other thing I really like about working in a different color is that if I do a rough, I can do my tie down in a different color. So I might do my rough in this purple, and then I might do my tie down in like a red, and then I can go in my black to do my final cleanup, and I can see the different stages, and I can see, oh, this tie down line is clearly not the darker color, so I still have to go over it. It's really helpful in my opinion to have those sort of things, and but to each their own. So um, I'm sure Ferdinand will also give a bit of an update. He is a little bit on leave right now, dealing with some back pain. So I'm hopeful that he'll recover soon. I am no stranger to pain myself, so I understand where he's coming from. But in case you're wondering where Ferdinand is at the moment, he's just trying to get over some stuff that, we sit so much, especially as animators, or as animators we hunch over so much and things like that. It's bound to happen that eventually we're gonna struggle with some pain, and it happens. So we have to take breaks, and we have to take care of ourselves so that we can continue doing what we do for as long as we can. Um, but that's where he's at right now. And I talked to him the other day. Seemed in okay spirits, but he wants to do this stuff with everybody, and do the work with everybody, and it's hard when you aren't feeling 100%. But I'm confident he'll get there. So I was saying earlier that you have to watch doing uh, gestures from illustrations. Here's a really good example. If you look at this very stylized knee on this character, this is not a choice I would have made. but it's in here now. So while I'm doing the gesture drawing, I have to almost undo it in my own mind and then redo the leg, which I could do and it's no big deal. But that's why you don't want to start with an illustration if you're just learning gestures, because you want to be as clear to life as possible early on, so that then you can make decisions like this and do a weird knee. But so on mine, I was just like, oh, I'm just drawing what I see. But no, I don't want to draw what I see here because it's not going to be the gesture at that point. It's going to be kind of the artist's decision. And so I want to try and add back in some of the gesture. And the same goes for the hips. The hips are uh, honestly, how do I put this? This is almost a broken pose in a sense. It's really really stylized, which works and it's lovely. But the anatomy here is not necessarily correct, and this is the sort of thing that you need to know about before you copy it. Otherwise, you'll be copying things that are broken. Um, Eileen says the straight leg looks more stylized than the bent one. Yeah, I mean they're both very stylized, but yeah, they're both like they're twisted in a way that you wouldn't be able to do in real life. So and yeah, it's because of the hips. Good call. So you can see it. So um, you know it's good to do that every once in a while. If you see a pose like this, stop for a second, by all means enjoy it, but stop for a second and analyze it a little bit and see what they did, what the choices that they made. And yeah, like Kylie says, they're intentionally broken for impact, and that is accurate. That's one of the beautiful things about doing art. We can make choices like that, but if we're doing gestures, then you have to be careful that you're uh, of what you're copying essentially, because if you're copying things that aren't true to life, then when you go back later to use it in your own work as an inspiration, it'll start just to get muddled, and it's tricky. So I will keep some of what this artist has decided to do, and then I'll tweak some things as well, because it's kind of all over the place, which is fine. But all right, and the head, and like if you look at the head and neck area, that's also it's pretty broken. Again, not a problem if that's the decisions that you're making, but you gotta just watch it when you're doing your gestures, because it will be confusing later. All right, that's that's good enough for now. And then I'll put in some subtle shading. Where were we put the shading? Darken this back arm and the back leg. And if you've seen any other gesture drawing sessions that we've done, this is just something I enjoy doing for my own reference sake for future. Like I like putting in a little bit of that shadow, just so that I can get an idea of in the future what was in front and what was in back. And um, it's just a little easier for me later to go back in and have these extra bit of dimension. All right, I think that's good enough for that one. Gets the idea across, even if, again, a little broken. So now we're back to photo reference. I think, unless this is digitally generated, you can't even tell anymore, right? But I think this is photo reference. Maria says the pose is broken, but very dynamic. Guides your eye down to a lovely action curve. Yeah, absolutely, and that's why the artist did that. They broke it so that, like you both have been saying, that would draw the eye, it would complete this action, and it does it for impact. And it's the beauty of art. Let's do that, but first know your anatomy, so that you're not just making stuff up on the fly, generally speaking. All right, so now in this pose, I'm going to probably tilt the head slightly because this sort of straight up and down thing doesn't do much for me. So maybe I'll, whoops. So maybe I'll give it a little bit of extra expression on the head. That's just, again, kind of decisions that you can make if you want to. This is a fun pose. I like the kind of attitude in it, plus the just different angles and the way that there's a lot of weight here on this hand. You got the straight of this arm and then the bend of the other arm, which is it's nice. This is a really nice pose. I'm a fan. Working out of order here. I should really be doing the forms first, but that's all right. It's also probably a very hard pose to get into because the legs are bent inward. This is kind of thing where uh, if somebody had drawn this, I'd probably be like, "Well, look, they chose to break some things here," but really they didn't. They were just putting in what the actual pose was, and the person has a very flexible body type, I guess. And like we did in previous ones where there was a stool, I'm going to have to, well, I don't have to, but I'm going to put in the stool, or at least part of the stool, because uh, it grounds the character. And without that, they're just sitting on nothing and don't want that. So, while I'm doing my drawing in quiet because I am concentrating, um, one of the things that I was afforded to do while I was trying to recover is to start the new Zelda game. So I don't know if anybody here has played it yet. I won't spoil anything, but so far it is very good. Really enjoying it. I don't know if I like it better than Breath of the Wild yet. It's different in a lot of ways. I like some elements more, and I'm not sure. I don't know. I think with Breath of the Wild, it was just so new, and this feels very much like a sequel, which is fine, but you just don't get quite the same kind of freshness to it that you would if it was all brand new. So, all right, good deal. So on this one, I've put the hand in the wrong place, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and tweak that digitally. Could also redraw it, but I think I'm just gonna tweak it digitally. And then I'll move on to the next one because um, if I was doing a study, for example, I would definitely go back and redo that uh, instead of just doing the digital edit. But since we're moving along through some just gestures, I think it's okay to leave it the way it was. Add these lines in. All right, good deal. So I am going to add just a little bit of extra for the legs of the stool. So because the way it's cut off here right at the toe, that creates a tangent that I don't really like. So I'm going to extend that a little bit just so that that tangent's not in there. Okay. Now this one, like that first one, obviously the artist has made significant choices to push a line, to push an action, and that sort of thing. Um, as far as character design goes, this is not my cup of tea because it's just like it's too extreme on places like the waist. It's just it doesn't work for me. I understand what they're going for, and it's fine. It's an artistic choice, but for me, this is one of those instances where you could push things too far, and so that's just my personal aesthetic is that this took it a little too far, and that's fine. Um, but when I go in to do my version, I will change the proportion slightly so that uh, they're more in tune with what I would do for a character, and then I just take the base of the pose, and then I can have it as reference for future. But as you can see, I'm not going to mimic it exactly just because that's not my particular aesthetic. Looks like the hips are not contrappostoed. And the same thing with the holding a gun, or I think it's a gun. Also not my aesthetic, so I will change the hand slightly so that it's maybe open. Uh, or I can, make that decision based on whatever I'm using the reference for in the future. But for now, we'll keep it open because uh, I'm not sure if I've ever drawn a character with a gun before, like in my life. Maybe when I was younger, it's just not my thing. So I've I'm trying to think if I've ever actually put it in. Oh no, I had, yeah, there was a old Fred the Monkey cartoon about Thanksgiving where they were going hunting for turkey, and they had a shotgun in that one. So there you go. All right. So I will probably do, I don't know if I'm going to get to all of these today. Kind of want to do some shorter drawing sessions so that people can jump in and out if they want to join in or watch them later. But I will do some additional ones. All right. Okay. Um, Back to photos. This is a very awkward hand to draw because it's twisted backwards essentially. Um, it obviously is functioning anatomy wise, but it's tricky to get that uh, backwards thing. Maria says, drawing the back of a person is something I hadn't done too much of, but have to for the animation I'm working on. So much to learn from doing it. Yeah, it's amazing how little we practice that particular aspect of things because we're so used to doing character design from the front. If we do the back, it's usually very simplified. And the back is extremely complicated. I mean, you've got all these different muscles that feed into other muscles, and then you have the bone extrusions of the scapula and stuff. And so it's just there's a lot going on there, um, and it can be hard to find the balance between simplification and getting the anatomy right. Because if you put in too much, it's just kind of this mess of lines, especially with animation. But if you don't put in anything, it just doesn't. It never seems to read. This is a back. Um, so you do have to. I think that the scapula lines are really one of the big ones. If you can get those in correctly, and then you get um, that inner curve of the spine where you can see the divot. I think that that helps a lot too. But it is definitely something that you practice like on its own, uh, so that you can get it right whenever the time comes. It's tricky stuff for sure. All right, I think what's off here? Something is off here. This leg is. I think it's just the proportions are slightly off. See if I can fix that quick. I don't. I think it's the fact that the both of the legs are off on the proportions a bit. So I'd have to go fix both of them. A little better. Put in some other clothing detail just so that I can get that sense of uh, form. All right. Oh, it's close. My I can tell from my time off that I am hesitant, right? Like you could probably see it in the line quality. These are just really hesitant lines. I'm not back yet in my comfort zone where I'm just making my smooth and confident lines. That just happens when you take some time off. It's been too long, in my opinion, since I've been really at this a lot. So I have to kind of break out of that. So knowing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend this next one just pushing and being loose and free, and I'm going to ignore everything else. So actually, what I will do, uh, just as this isn't even necessarily me doing a gesture drawing at this point, this is going to be me recognizing that I'm not loose and then trying to fix that. So I'm going to go in and get rid of everything else momentarily. Oh, erase. Oh my gosh. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go in. I'm just going to take everything out for a minute so that I can just loosen up and make a mess. I'm going to just make a mess because I need to I need to stop with this hesitation stuff. So I am at this point not worried about the outcome. I am worried about stopping this miserable uh, hesitancy that I've got. I'm I have to basically fight with myself to just put lines down and ignore if it's right or if it's wrong or if I'm doing things that I like versus not like. I just it doesn't matter right now if I like it or dislike it. I just want to put lines down so that I can loosen up and stop with this hesitancy stuff because that'll kill your drawings. It's awful. Like it gets in the way so much. Um, all right, so that'll help. So just doing that really quickly helped me to stop with the issue I was having where I'm just so caught up in every little detail and things. And this is not, a pretty drawing. It's not even it's not something I would save, to be honest. But hopefully doing that and just like throwing caution to the wind for a moment helped a little bit to get me back into a mindset where I can uh, not be so tense, because the other ones are just they're too tense, and they're not what I was hoping for when I sat down. Now it's also possible that sometimes you just have a bad day and they're all gonna come out not the way you want them to. That happens, is what it is. But the hope is that just from that brief little exercise that I did, I can pull myself out of the sort of I don't know the word for it. I guess hesitancy is probably the best bet. I was having too much of this hesitancy of the drawing, and I'm not going to get a good outcome if I'm so caught up in making it pretty and perfect that I ignore the actual gesture and the pose and stuff. And I haven't totally kicked the that sense of hesitancy, but at the very least, it's feeling a little less stiff and lifeless to me doing the drawing, which is a plus because so with this back arm on this particular pose, I'm not liking that tangent that's coming around with uh, her forearm hitting her butt here. So I'm gonna change this arm a bit and just bring it out just a tiny bit so that that's not happening. Um, I'm not changing it a ton, but I want to change it enough that it's not that I get a little bit of a gap in there because I'm not a fan of where it was. Just having that little bit of a gap, I think, will make it better. Oops. The brush is also not. For some reason, this brush today is not being my friend. For whatever reason, the it's just a struggle. But those days happen to all of us. So if you ever have one of those days, it's okay. It just you keep going, and it'll get better down the road. Oh, come on, brush. Work with me here. All right. All right. Well, I like how that one turned out better in terms of confidence than the others. I don't like the pose. I don't like how overall it turned out, but I like it better than the other one. Okay, so this is where I would stop because I'm feeling bad and I just want to quit and go do something else. But I'm going to get through these last two because honestly, sometimes it's better to just push a little bit more and see if you can resolve whatever's going on. Um, you can't always, but sometimes you can. So I'm gonna just do these last two. Nope. See, I really like this pose. So if it doesn't go well, I'll definitely come and revisit this because I I would like to have this for some future idea. Um, but sometimes you just have to come back to it another time. And this seems like that kind of time. This would be a fun one to do a study of instead of just a gesture drawing, because there's a lot of dynamism and foreshortening and action, and this would be a really fun one, I think, to have that. But I'm making an absolute mess of it. Oh well. Do what you can, and some days that just happens. So looks like she's playing the violin. What a disaster. Last one, and then we're quitting. We're gonna put this gesture drawing session out of its misery. Let's change some things up. Maybe that'll help. Let's go with some burnt orange color. It's kind of the color of her shirt. Do I want to change brushes? No, we'll just finish out with this good old fashioned brush and leave it be. This is some great contrapposto in this pose. Really dig it. It's not got a great line of action, really, but that's okay because the contrapposto makes up for it. Man, this brush today, what is with you? It's just giving me thick lines when I don't ask for it, and I guess that's another instance of my taking some time off or something because it's just really giving me fits today. Stop. All right, that didn't turn out too bad for me wanting to give up earlier and being done. It's not favorite thing I've ever done, but that's all right. It's all right. Let's put in some purple shadows. What do you say? Come this far. All right, fine, brush. Do what you want. I don't care. All right, that's good enough for now. I don't know how many of these, if any, are even usable for my files in the future. I guess a couple of them are okay, but man, it was one of those days. You know how it goes sometimes? One of those days. Let's see. Blay says, how to draw from imagination for storyboards or animated short scene. Uh, if you are asking how to, step one in any of those processes, let me make this bigger so I can finish out with some Q&A here. Step one to drawing from imagination is building a visual library in your imagination. So uh, you can imagine any combination of any number of things, but what you can't imagine is the unimaginable. By definition, you cannot imagine something that you have no frame of reference for. So, if you want to draw from your imagination, you have to pull it from the exterior world, and then you can rearrange things in your head to put out something new or different, or just a variation of what you've seen. So, if I want to do a pose, I will pull all the collection of anatomy and other poses that I've had experience with over the years, and then I'll create this new pose from my imagination. But in a sense, it's also drawing from reality. So if you want to learn to draw from your imagination well, you need to do stuff like we've just done here today. You need to do stuff like gesture drawing, drawing from life, and then you need to put that into practice using your imagination. So, for example, let's just say I don't want to take that bottom one. All right, we'll take this bottom one. Here, let me swap real quick. We'll take this bottom one that's a mess. So if I wanted to draw this kind of angelic character from um, in a different pose from my imagination, I could use this as reference, but then change it in my own head so that I could decide what to put the character's pose in. So, for example, I might say um, have the character uh, defending in the other direction. Let's just say. So I will have my base foundation from what I have here, and maybe we'll do this leg here this way, and we'll put a twist in, and uh, I'll use my existing knowledge of different things in order to um, in order to just make something up that is otherwise not a reference that I have directly in front of me. So maybe I combine it with this first one. This girl had a pole arm, so maybe I give the angelic being a pole arm in this one, and so we have this arm coming straight to hold here, and it's like a spear, right? And so I use the existing knowledge that I have in order to construct a pose that's totally not one that I have direct reference of. And so that's what drawing from the imagination is. It's this sense of, that's a terrible expression, but you get the point. It's this sense of compiling a library in your head of different things and then um, pulling from that library. And the better you get, the easier it gets to do that. And so then again, because we have this reference here, I could do this giant wing on this side and then this side as well. And so I can go in and um, I can make up something, from scratch based on the different visual things that I've done in the past, which will allow you to create from the imagination. Um, The other thing I would say is simple shapes are your friend when you're working with the imagination, because you can always make something more complicated. You could take something simple and make it more complicated. But if you start out very complicated from the imagination, it typically will trip you up a little bit more. So get very good at doing base shapes and base forms and proportions, and then you can put them in any combination you want, and it'll be from the imagination, but it'll be solid and structured and tends to work a little better. So hope that helps a little bit. And that's all I think I got for today. So I appreciate everybody swinging by and hanging out. As I said earlier, this was not my best day of drawing, but that's okay. It happens. And you just have to keep going. So I'm going to come back later in the week and do another one of these. And I'm going to try again and see if I can pull myself out of this little rusty situation that I put myself in. Maria says, thank you for Maria for coming and for the comments and just everybody for comments and questions. We really appreciate it here at Animator Island. And I hope that you enjoyed today's session. Hope you got some drawing in. If not, next time, later in the week, think about it. And and JP says, where in the world is Ferdinand San Diego? So just another brief update on Ferdinand. Unfortunately, Ferdinand is suffering from a pretty significant back issue that probably is sparked from the fact that we're artists and artists tend to sit a lot and we hunch over as we're drawing and all this stuff. It's not a fun situation when you get older and it starts to hit you. So the good news is he's talked with somebody about it, and he's hopefully on the road to recovery. But that's where he is right now. And as soon as he is feeling better, I am sure he'll be back because he really wants to be here and hanging out. But I keep telling him, Ferdinand, you got to get better. You can't like sort of get better and then push yourself and then get hurt again. It's the same with me. I have to keep reminding myself of that. So he'll be back, but right now, just a little bit out of commission for the moment. And we wish him a speedy recovery to be sure. All right. Blay says tips for character movements. I'll tell you what, Blay, we're going to tackle that one. Remind me next session. I'll talk a little bit about that when we do a next gesture drawing session. It will be almost assuredly later this week, as long as health issues stay clean. But look forward to that because we'll do another gesture drawing session. And again, I really invite everybody to join in. So next time around, or even go look at some recordings of other ones and sit down and really do some gestures if you get a chance. It'll really hone your skills. It's really good exercise to do. So, all right, that's it from me. So, have a good day, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye.